LaMelo Ball is one of the more hyped players of the past couple of NBA drafts, and as he has come into his career early on with the Charlotte Hornets, it seems as though he is living up to that hype. After having a bit of a rough start due to, for the most part, being benched, he has since earned a starting role where LaMelo has been amazing. In 7 games as a starter, LaMelo is averaging 21 points, 6 rebounds, and 6 assists on 45, 44, 90 splits. And the Charlotte Hornets are 4-3 in those games. So LaMelo, ever since becoming a starter, has just looked amazing as a very, very talented young player. What's also important to note is that 45% from 3, he is shooting 7 of them a game, so it's not low volume. But as I've been watching multiple Hornets games this year, and especially that one game he had against the Heat where he hit like 7 threes, I want to know what is LaMelo's actual ceiling? What is his true potential? What can LaMelo be at his absolute peak? Let's talk about it.
Save! Absolutely incredibly with the acrobatic alley-oop!
Real quick, before I get on with the rest of this video, about half of the people that watch these videos are not subscribed, so if you fall into that 50% of people who are not subscribed, then, well, subscribe. It allows you to get these videos in your sub box, and it makes me feel a lot better about myself. Also, drop a like on this video. It only takes 1 second, and it makes a massive difference. Also, real quick, if you are not subscribed to my second channel already, I'm doing post-game reactions 6 days a week, and every Sunday now, I am doing a hot take reaction. If you enjoy the hot takes videos that have been on this channel, well, those videos are now going to be over on the second channel. There is a brand new one out that I posted today, so go check that one out. But with that out of the way, let's talk about LaMelo Ball. I think the best way to figure out what LaMelo can really be at his peak is to break down each element of his game and kind of determine where that can go from there. So to start off, the fact that he's averaging 21 points per game as a starter so far is really making me think his scoring potential is higher than I previously expected, because my previous anticipation of what LaMelo scoring would be is that basically at his peak he would be like a 21 point per game score, and he's already doing that at 19. But before we talk about that scoring, the number one thing for LaMelo, and probably what's always going to be the number one thing for LaMelo, is the playmaking. He's averaging 6 assists per game, and I will say, if there's one part of his game that has been at least mildly disappointing to me, it is the playmaking. Now, don't get me wrong, LaMelo has still been an amazing playmaker, but he has been a little bit turnover heavy. Like, he's averaging 3 turnovers to 6 assists, which is not the best ratio in the world. It's not horrible, but it's not good either. And I expected, like, at this point for him to average like 1 billion assists. Like, obviously not really 1 billion, it's a tad bit of an exaggeration, but like, I don't know, 8 or 9 as a starter. And a part of that is that the Hornets haven't really allowed him to do this. Like, Gordon Hayward gets the ball a lot, Terry Rozier, Devontae Graham get the ball a lot, although I think Devontae Graham's been out since LaMelo's been a starter. But point is, the opportunity as a playmaker has not been as high, and I can say a lot of his scoring is coming off of the ball, which is a good sign, but that also speaks to the fact that he's not on the ball all the time. And the fact that he has high turnovers, I mean, I think I'm just going to chalk that up to the fact that he's 19, and I'll give him this. LaMelo makes ballsy passes, and sometimes they work, and it's the #1 play on SportsCenter. Sometimes they don't, and it's a turnover. And I mean, I'm okay with that. There's some people who make the argument that LaMelo's playmaking is more flashy than it is actually like good or valuable. If you watch the Hornets, you know that's not true. LaMelo is an unbelievable playmaker, and he makes the game so much easier for so many of his teammates. The #1 guy you have to point to right now is Miles Bridges. That connection is mwah, chef's kiss. But talking about that scoring, 21 points per game as a starter, 45% from 3 on 7 attempts per game. Now, I do not expect the 7 attempts per game, 45% to hold up, because those are like prime Steph Curry numbers. That would be pretty fucking wild if LaMelo continued to do that. If he does, then his ceiling is a whole lot higher than I already think it is, which is, spoiler alert, very high. But if LaMelo could be a 37% three-point shooter on 7 attempts per game for his career, that's a very good three-point shooter. shooter. And if he could be a 40% on like 6 attempts, that's a great shooter. So LaMelo definitely has the potential as a shooter. And I think what's most important with LaMelo is like the confidence as a 19-year-old to launch 7 threes per game and take them from the depth that he has, because you turn on these Hornets games, he is pulling from 35 feet with little hesitation. 35 feet might be a bit of an exaggeration, but like, you know, a good 5 feet behind the line. On the break with 19 seconds on the shot clock, he stepped into a three-pointer that was well behind the line. It's like, this guy, he's confident. He believes the shot's going to drop, and really believing is like half of the battle. Shooting is very much a mental game, and really the worst thing you can do with your shooting is think about it. That's the reason why some of the worst shooters are some of the worst shooters, because like Ben Simmons, for example, you can tell that he is in his head when he is shooting the ball. Giannis, you can tell that he is in his head when he is shooting the ball. LaMelo thinks the shot's going in. He has that confidence, and that's already enough for me to say pretty confidently that LaMelo is going to be a good three-point shooter throughout his entire career. But what about the other elements of scoring? Well, the long twos, mid-range shots, have been very efficient. However, only 8% of his shots are coming from there, so not too much to be excited about in that regard. His shots from 10 to 16 feet, however, are not efficient. Those are on a higher volume. About 18% of his shots are coming from there, and he's shooting in the mid-30s. It's not abysmally inefficient, but it's not efficient. He has this one-legged, like, pull-up floater type thing that he keeps doing, and they haven't been going in so far. I mean, if they start to drop, then that's going to be a deadly weapon, but I'm just not all that confident that they will. So that's a little bit of a rough area for him. I don't know how great of a creator in the mid-range LaMelo is really going to be. But now let's talk about him attacking the basket. This is another area that's a tad bit rough. He's shooting 61% at the basket, which is not bad, but it's not good either. Like, I think the league average is around 65%, and he has no issue driving to the basket. I think as a starter, he's been taking like 7 or so drives a game where he's shooting the ball. But his finishing, it's not that he isn't good at finishing, but it's like he is afraid of contact. So rather than just going for the play that has the contact, he'll lean away from the defender and try and, you know, make this really fancy finish, or like go so far away from the basket that it's tough to get the right angle on the glass. And if he would just lean into his defender or just accept the contact and just go up with it, he would either A, make the shot more, or B, get to the free throw line more, because even though he's shooting 90% from the free throw line, which is great, he is only taking 3 free throws per game, which for someone who is driving as much as he is would suggest that he is afraid of that contact. So in the scoring department, LaMelo has been a great three-point shooter, and I think for his entire career he's going to be a pretty good one. His finishing, he needs to accept contact more, but overall I'd say his aggressiveness suggests that he should be a pretty good finisher, and his mid-range numbers have not been positive thus far, but I will like hold out hope that he can at least be a respectable mid-range shooter throughout his career. And then playmaking wise, I do believe, even though he's had some rough stuff with the turnovers and his volume of assists is not as high as I would like them to be, and I do think part of that is because of personnel, at the end of the day I think LaMelo is going to be one of the best playmakers in the NBA regardless. As a matter of fact, I would probably make the argument that he's already a top 10 playmaker at like the bare minimum. So I definitely think LaMelo, I mean, he's not like impact wise going as high, but like it's clear he has that ability to be top 10. He's just not being given the full opportunity yet, but like in terms of his actual playmaking ability, I think he's already clearly a top 10 playmaker in the league, just needs more opportunity there. Either way, playmaking, it's going to be amazing. His scoring, even though I previously expected his ceiling to be around 21 points per game, him scoring all of that already at 19 has me wondering if he can be a 25 or so point per game guy. But it's also a possibility that LaMelo is just kind of peaking early and like he's not going to take a huge leap from here. But honestly, I'm not going to make that assumption. I think LaMelo is going to be around a 23 to 25 point per game scorer for a majority of his career, while being a 7 to 9 assists per game guy. And he could probably average double-digit assists, but you guys who have been around here for a while would know my gripe with players averaging that many assists. I think it's generally a pretty bad thing. So hopefully he doesn't have to average that many assists. So if I'm guessing peak numbers, I would say probably 25, 8, and 7 rebounds or so. And the last thing to talk about for his potential is the defense. Now LaMelo is 6'8". I believe his wingspan is somewhere close to 7 foot. He's pretty athletic, he is quick, and he has a high defensive IQ. He's averaging well, I wouldn't say the highest defensive IQ, but he definitely shows flashes of knowing what's going on. He averages 1.6 steals per game, which suggests that he's pretty good at getting in the way of passing lanes. I've definitely seen him make a good amount of defensive reads. The issue with him him is that sometimes the effort is not as high as you would like it to be, and sometimes, of course, he's making rookie mistakes early, and his overall defensive IQ is up and down. But just because LaMelo is simply 6'8" and he is a guard, I think he's going to be fine defensively. Like, he's kind of in a similar camp with Luka Doncic, because Luka had some of these similar issues, and this year Luka has been a pretty good defender just because the guy is big. Like, as long as he is putting up marginal effort and he's not an idiot, he can be decent defensively. So I think LaMelo's defense is going to be fine. And speaking of Luka, if I am projecting a ceiling for LaMelo Ball, I would say he'd probably be about 85 to 90% of what Luka Doncic is, probably closer to 85. And I realize that sounds like I'm like overhyping him, but genuinely, I think LaMelo can be that level of player. I think LaMelo can be, even one day, a top 5 player in the league. I would confidently say, I think in probably 4 or 5 years, max really, he's probably a top 10 player in the league. I do think at his peak, he can be a top 5 player. Like, I think he can be basically a 6'8" Chris Paul minus the mid-range shots, but more threes, and not as great defense, but still good defense just from the fact that he is 6'8". And holy shit, is that a good player. So, yeah, LaMelo Ball is the real deal. I think his ceiling is incredibly high. So that's what I believe LaMelo Ball's ceiling to be. Again, go check out that hot takes video on my second channel and just subscribe over there, period. I'm going to be doing post-game reactions 6 days a week and a hot take video every Sunday. And yeah, that is the end of this video. Please be sure to like and subscribe for more NBA content like this, and cue the outro music.